Okay, we're here at Bassam with Wojtek, one of the managers of Dudek paragliders, and current world champion Michel Carnet with the Nucleon, the glider that's being reviewed in the upcoming Paramotor magazine. And this is the wing that you flew to your world championship win, I believe, or the model.
Yes, Nucleon.
Okay, well, clearly you know it better than most of us. Would you take us round it and show us its special features?
Yes, Nucleon. It is a 100% reflex wing, following in the footstep of the reaction, which proved itself over the previous years. And the Nucleon did bring a few innovations, especially in the steering, because everybody knows that reflex wings, once you accelerate them, they tend to be stiffer to turn. So a different system had to be invented in order to make the wings turn while in reflex mode. Mm-hmm. And this is what we did with the Nucleon, where we have the traditional brakes, which you land when you take off, and for landing, for the flare. But while flying in the reflex mode, if you want to have a lighter steering, then with just two fingers you can grab a small ball, which when you pull changes the geometry of the braking system, which now makes it easier to turn, effortless turning, just two fingers. And the main advantage is that at any time you can not use it, let it go, and then you are back to your normal brake toggle, which allows you to land immediately if you had to, if you had an engine failure or so on.
Okay.
I think this is important to say now that the idea of this solution came from Michel Carnet.
Yeah.
He was experimenting with this since Chinese championship
2007.
Yeah.
On the reaction. So for several years, my reaction had some of these little devices, and then once the concept was proven and successful in competition, then when the Nucleon came out, it had the benefit of several years of testing, and now it is standard, the system on most of the Dudek wings, and it works very well. Very simple. And the most important thing is you do not let go
of the brakes.
Your brakes when you are near the ground. And in competition we have slaloms where we need to go 1 minute you need a very good handling, and the next minute you need full speed bar to get the energy and the speed, and then off the speed bar, quick turn and come back. So you need to be able to do all that, and the ALC system makes it very easy.
Okay. So just run us through it again. Like when I'm flying slowly with trimmers on, I just use the brakes. I come up to say half trim, or your trimmer system. You've got. You told me to launch it on. No, I launched it on.
0 means the level of the melons is
okay,
level.
So that's level.
The number just helps to recognize the right position.
So this is what you would call the paragliding mode. When all the risers are the same length, and from then you can go slower if you wanted, to be the most economical way of flying with the Paramotor. You can take off like this. You can inflate and take off like this, and then you can fly what we call neutral, or you can then go more and more and more reflex.
And how should I be using the brakes during this?
Traditionally, the problem with reflex wing that on slow trim they have a very good handling, and as you accelerate them, the handling becomes stiffer and stiffer. And on full trim you even have adverse yaw and so on.
And you have a reflex built into the profile, so using the brakes and deforming the reflex is
exactly. So now if you're talking about doing maneuvers in very rough air, you know that you want to let the wing do keep the stability in the wing. The last thing you want is to pull hard on the brake and change the and counteract the reflex. So the whole advantage of using the ALC system is that by grabbing the two together, you are changing the brake distribution. You are initially working mainly on the wingtips.
So this is entirely wingtip braking, and this is the majority of the trailing edge.
This is not stabilo.
Yeah, so it's wingtip braking.
This is the outside brake part of the trailing edge. Mm-hmm. So all you're doing by doing the two together, there is a very subtle change in the geometry. Because normally when you put on just the brakes, this brake line divides into three thirds of the brake from the whole trailing edge. But the fact that you are pulling now on this line, which is going directly to one of the thirds, you are now changing the whole balance. And in effect, you have lots of brakes being put on the very tips, a little bit on the middle section, and very little near the center of the wing. So it's like having redesigned completely the brake, the trailing edge, in order to help for steering only. So for steering, the two together is a much better geometry for steering.
Yeah, sure.
Including on fast trim and full speed bar.
So you recommend on fast trim still using the main brakes?
If you are near the ground, yes.
Okay.
The problem comes to when you are near the ground, and if you have an engine failure, you need to be able to instantly,
so you won't get any flare out of the tip braking.
If you are holding the two, you have less flare. That's the problem at the moment, especially on paramotors. We need to be able to land safely at the end of the flight, or if the engine stops, we need to quickly go and flare. And at the moment, we have to pull on everything in order to have a flare. By pulling the two together, we have changed the geometry. It is now not good for landing. You cannot land like that.
Okay.
It will not flare. To show how efficient, just pulling with two fingers gently, changing everything, landing like this makes it difficult. But if you need to, you have the main thing. You don't have to look for another handle. It is there in your hand.
So when do I just use tip braking only?
If you only want to, if you're high and away from the ground and you normally fly hands off anyway. Yeah. And if you do want to change direction slightly, you just pull on this. Like people do with the stabilo line, before. If you just want to change direction, not near the ground, you just use the ball.
Okay. When you navigate with a map, for example, you put the...
But as soon as you are near the ground, takeoff, landing, maneuvers, you really ought to have the handle in your hand.
Okay.
And if you want better handling, you can use the ball, but you don't have to. So for first time people fly this wing, they don't have to learn a new system. They can fly like what they know. Yeah. And if they say, oh, my handling is a little bit hard on reflex mode, then you have an answer here to make it lighter.
Yeah. Okay.
But in competition, in slaloms, we do the whole task
like that. Okay.
With everything, and this allows us to fly larger size of wings and make them turn very well. So the advantages of flying a large wing is that you have less noise because you need less power, you burn less fuel, landing and takeoff are slower. So there are many advantages having a larger wing. And traditionally, the only problem is, my big wing, I cannot turn it. But now we have addressed this problem. We can make a large wing turn effortlessly.